Hello guys, Rollback1 here and welcome to Duels and Deck Profiles, a segment on the channel where we look at decks coming out later in the game, decks that are currently in the game, or just any deck in general, and basically show you guys some deck profiles and show you guys some duels with it. And in all honesty guys, in today's Duels and Deck Profiles, I have something so degenerate that I cannot believe that Konami made this deck. In all honesty, it's ridiculous, it's a joke, and Konami really just wanted to say, yeah, we've had enough, you can have some degeneracy in the game that we're going to choose for once. And honestly, I can't believe it. This deck is absolutely insane, and it is the Mysterune. And guys, I am not going to lie to you. I have been testing this deck. I have been working on this deck. I have gotten so much slander for playing this deck just to get replays for the videos, trying different variants. And guys, I cannot believe how degenerate this deck actually is, and today I'm going to show you what the literal first mill deck ever made by Konami looks like. Because I'm not gonna lie, there have been mill decks in the past, but there has been never a deck that literally says you banish the top card of your opponent's library for every time you activate a card, and then just deck your opponent out. Sure, there's been mill decks such as Empty Jar in the game, there's been that bug mill deck that was in Duel Links, might have been back in the old days as well, but guys, this deck is fully centered around decking your opponents out for an archetype that Konami made. And honestly, I don't know what Konami were thinking when they made this archetype, because this archetype is absolutely insane and absolutely crazy that it's just a joke. And honestly, it's madness. I generally do not know why Konami made this archetype. I do not know what gave them the idea behind this archetype. And guys, you do not necessarily have to play my build, because you can mix this with multiple different variants. You could play a modern day Empty Jar build with this. You could play Sky Striker with this. You could play literally any rank 4 turbo deck with this, because of all of them are literally instant fusions. And that's just crazy to me, how Konami have made something so versatile, so degenerate, that it just doesn't make sense. But guys, in today's Duels and Deck Profiles, we're going to be looking at this. I'm going to be showing you this deck profile, showing you some games, and I'm going to be honest, almost 90% of the time, I will deck someone out this deck because they just can't stop it. Like, they generally cannot stop me from decking them out, because they're going to search a ton of cards, I'm going to go ahead and banish a ton of cards, and then they're going to have no cards left, which means they can't draw for turn, and then you win the game because they can't draw for turn due to game mechanics. So yeah, this deck is insane. We're going to get into the deck profile now, and I cannot believe what Konami were thinking when they made the Mysterune deck. So let's go ahead and show off the deck. So starting off, we play 3 Lord of the Heavenly Prison. This card is essentially everything that this deck wants. It's a protection from your opponent from attacking you directly. It's a search for any of your spell cards or trap cards if you want to get Skill Drain or Soul Levy, as you can see. And it's also just a generally really good card because it protects you from stuff like Lightning Storm and everything along those lines to stop your opponent from being able to kill you with those kind of cards. The card is everything that you want in this deck: a searcher, protection, and a big body to protect yourself from being killed by battle. It's all in one, and it's really, really strong. We play 3 Pot of Extravagance. This card says draw 2. Your extra deck means literally zilch half the time in this deck, outside of the 6 cards from the actual Mysterune deck. So you want to be playing 3 Pot of Extravagance just so you can go ahead and draw 2 cards, get more Mysterune cards, and then go from there. I will say this though, the field spell does have a draw effect. So if you're going to use this card to draw on the turn, and you don't want to get those additional free draws, then be careful how you actually use this, because this card could potentially hinder you if you're not too careful. Next, we also play 3 Pot of Duality. Who needs to draw after Pot of Extravagance? Because you can just go ahead and activate Duality and get 1 of 3 cards to mill your opponent out even more, or get a specific card that will help you prevent your opponent from playing the game. We also play, for the Mysterune stuff, the first one, which is Point of the Mysterune, which says you can add 1 Mysterune card from your deck to your hand and then banish 1 card from the top of your opponent's deck. This is basically the searcher of the deck that basically gives you a banish and also gets you a card that you need to go ahead and make your opponent banish more, or get you the field spell to get more draw cards, or get you even the continuous spell to banish more cards in general. So the card is very, very strong. It is the best Mysterune card by far, and all of the Mysterune spell cards have the same effect, where you can go ahead and special summon 1 Mysterune monster from your extra deck into an extra monster zone. So I'm not going to go over that every single card. And just something to point out, guys, if you are going to use this, when you use these cards, it does skip your next battle phase. So you need to enter the battle phase to be able to skip the next battle phase. So if you ever activate one of these cards and you haven't entered the battle phase that turn, then it will skip the next turn battle phase if you attempt to enter that. Just a little ruling question there for all of you out there, just like whoever played Mermails should know this because of Mobius the Mega Monarch. Next, we also play Free Brilliant Flame. This card is pretty much just a special summon monster killer. If your opponent has a special summon monster on the board, you destroy it and you banish the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. Pretty much, you just want to prevent your opponent from killing you, so you just kill their monsters and you stay alive. We also play 2 Mysterune Destruction. Now, this one is pretty much just you destroy a spell and trap card and banish the top 4 cards of your opponent's deck. They chose to do the spell and trap card one as banish top 4. I believe they did this purely for the fact that, well, there aren't a lot of back row decks in the game, and killing spell and trap cards isn't the easiest thing unless your opponent's playing field spells and stuff along those lines. So this is going to be the hardest one to use, which is why I play at 2. But if you're up against any back row deck, they're going to lose just because you're going to go ahead and pop their back row, banish 4 cards, and have more mill and more banish for your opponent. Next, we play Free Freezing Curse. This card basically says you can target one effect monster your opponent controls, negate it, and then you go ahead and banish the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. So this one banishes 3, this one banishes 4, this one banishes 2, and this one banishes 1. There's a theme on how many they banish, and there's multiple that banish different numbers. So pretty much you've got the negation here. This is the whole thing about negation. Next is the Mysterune of Slumber. This is pretty much you target one monster your opponent controls, and that turn that monster cannot attack. You also banish the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. So this is pretty much just in the deck to get more banish and also stop your opponent from attacking you. You need to stay alive as long as possible to mill your opponent out. So you want to be playing cards like this that just prevent your opponent from killing you. So having that battle negation is always really, really strong. Next, we play Free Golden Droplets. Now, this is the most controversial one, where it says your opponent draws 1 card, but they also banish the top 4 cards of their deck. So essentially what this card says is that you get rid of 1/8 of their deck. So pretty much the whole point of this card is to say, yeah, I'm going to give you a free draw, but you're going to lose more cards out of it, which is really, really good. And even though you're giving your opponent that additional draw, it's not going to matter because you're banishing 4 cards. That could be essential combo pieces as well, which is really, really good. And then the last one is the Raging Storm. And this is the best one because what this card does is you can banish cards from the top of your opponent's deck equal to the number of cards they control. So essentially, if your opponent controls 5 cards, they lose 1/8 of their deck. If your opponent controls 10, they lose 2/8 of their deck, or 1/4 of their deck, which is just insane, thinking how you can banish up to, well, 13 cards on your opponent's board. And I say 13 because if they U-Link, they can take out both extra monster zones. 12 is the maximum normally if they don't U-Link. But this card is absolutely insane, and it banishes so many different cards and so many cards from the opponent's deck that it's really, really strong and really, really good. And then we also play 1 Deceit of the Mysterune. Now, we're only playing 1 of this because you can only control 1 of it on the board, but what this card essentially does is it says each time a quick play spell is activated, banish the top card of your opponent's deck. So what this essentially means is if I activate a Mysterune card that's a quick play spell, then I banish the top card of my opponent's deck. But what's really good about this is that it includes your opponent's quick play spells as well. So your opponent activates a Twin Twister and you somehow stop it. I don't know, you might, because there's protection for your back row in this deck. Then you go ahead and banish a card from your opponent's deck. They activate, I don't know, any quick play spell in the game. If they're playing Sky Strikers, that's a lot. Then they just go ahead and banish a ton of cards from their deck from activating their own cards, which is really, really strong and really, really good for this deck. Just be able to banish more cards, get more mill, and go from there. So very, very strong card there. And then going on to just other cards, we play 2 Mystic Mind. This is not really here to win you the game most of the time. This is here to just stop your opponent from attacking you so you can just mill them out. Like, this is more of a plan B when there's not really any other options, because if you don't have a way to stop your opponent from killing you, you have to activate the Mystic Mind so you don't die. And I know Mystic Mind is a very degenerate card, and this will end up with your opponent decking out because, oh, they're just going to keep drawing every turn, they don't have any back row removal, so they die. But the whole point of this card is just to sit here and keep us alive so we can activate more of our Mysterune spell and trap cards. Yes, it's degenerate. Yes, it's abysmally terrible, but it's a very, very good card, and you need to play it in this deck just in case that plan B is needed. So we play 2 of it, and the final Mysterune card that we actually play is Spring of the Mysterune. Now, this card is very, very strong in the deck because this card essentially says you can draw up to 3 cards and also activate your quick play Mysterune spells from your hand during your opponent's turn. So what does this do basically? So while it's face up, as I said, you can activate quick play spells of the Mysterune from your hand on your opponent's turn. But its actual effect that we use it for is once per turn, if you activate a Mysterune quick play spell, you can target up to 3 Mysterune quick play spells in your graveyard, put them on the bottom of the decks, and then draw 3 cards. Now, this is up to as well, so if you've activated 1, you can put 1 back to draw 1 card. If you've got 2 in there, you can put 2 back to draw 2 cards, or you can just go all out with 3, as I said. But essentially, this keeps the mill going, because you put back cards that you've already used, and you draw new cards, hopefully, to use more to banish more cards your opponent controls, which is really insane. And theoretically, with this card on the board, you should be able to banish your opponent's deck within 2 turns. Depending on how much they've searched and depending on what you draw off the cards, you could theoretically just banish their whole deck in 2 turns, which is really, really strong in this deck. So this card is absolutely insane. This card is very, very strong, and this card helps the deck so much just for the fact that it puts them on the bottom, so you're not drawing the same ones, and also for the fact that it recycles, meaning that you're not going to deck out as well if you're in like a mirror match or something, just so you have that protection. So card is very, very strong, card is very, very nice, and you need to be playing at least 2 because there are ways to recycle it as well through the extra deck. So yeah, but continuing on, we play 1 Terraforming and 1 Metaverse. These are obviously just field spell getters. They get us the field spells, Mystic Mine if we require Mystic Mine, the Mysterune field spell if we need the Mysterune's field spell. These are just here to just go ahead and get our field spells to, you know, give us protection, give us consistency, and also give us more ways to get to our stuff, pretty much. We also play 3 Skill Drain. This is pretty much here as protection as well, where if our opponent does have a board where they're trying to build a board with monster effects, then we just flip this. It slows them down, it lets us banish them out quicker, and just protects us a bit. It is something that I've been debating to maybe swap out for something like, I don't know, Gozen Match, or maybe, I don't know, There Can Only Be One, because those cards are very, very strong. But I like Skill Drain for the fact that it just negates everything, and having the ability to negate everything means that your opponent can't activate effects that could potentially kill it. So I really, really do like that fact about the card, so that's why I'm playing it. But if you wanted to play something like There Can Only Be One, Gozen Match, Rival of the Warlords, There Can Only Be One, you could easily swap it out for those and just play those instead. And then the last trap card that we're actually playing in the deck is Soul Levy, and what this card essentially does is you can only control 1 of it, but each time your opponent special summons a monster, you send the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck to the graveyard. So the whole point of this card is literally, oh, my opponent's playing special summon, oh, I've drawn Heavenly Prison, or I've opened this, sick. I'm going to activate my quick play spell card during your turn that I've had set, go ahead and set the Soul Levy so I can have it there, prevent my opponent from playing the game, and essentially hopefully be able to keep it on the board for next turn, and then start milling you out even more. Now, if we open it, it's even better, but the theory is basically just we prevent our opponent from playing the game for as long as possible, and then they're going to try to special summon more, and then we Soul Levy to kill them as well. So I think I only want to play at 1 as well, because I was testing out 3. I didn't like it at 3. I felt we needed more Mysterune cards and more consistency, but I wanted to keep it in at 1 just for the fact that it is there as a possibility and can be very, very strong too. So just little things like that made me keep it in. But going on to extra deck, we play 3 Gustav Max. This is literally for the time where, oh, we somehow got 2 Heavenly Prison on the board, so we special have them both attack for 6k and then just make the Gustav Max to like just burn you out. If it happens, it happens. Like, it is a possibility. I didn't do it in any of my testing, but I just wanted that window there just in case. 3 Zeus because, well, if we can't kill them through the battle damage, then we're just going to make Zeus clear their board and go from there to deck them out even more. Pretty much just a board clear there. Like, you could theoretically not play these. I just like them because they're there and they can be used for times. 3 Moonin, the Wings of the Mysterune. What this card essentially does is you can go ahead and discard a card and add a Mysterune continuous spell from your deck to your hand. So pretty much you special summon this off any of the Mysterune spells, you discard a card and get the Deceit of the Mysterune just so you can go ahead and get that extra banish. The card is very, very good for that fact. And also, when your opponent activates a card or that targets a Mysterune cards or / set cards you control, you can go ahead and banish this card and then just negate that card. So card has protection. Card is very, very nice to give you protection for your back row, for your Mysterune spell and trap cards. It's a very strong card, and I like the card in the deck because of that. Also, if you want that little extra motivation to play it, once per turn during the end phase, you do gain 1000 life points, meaning your opponent can't kill you as easily. So yeah, card is very, very good. It's mainly there just for the fact that you go ahead and search the continuous spell, but having that extra protection is also nice. And then we play 1 Gary, Fangs of the Mysterune. What this card essentially does is, if it's special summon from the extra deck, you go ahead and add 1 Mysterune spell that in your graveyard that isn't a quick play spell card. So if your field spell has been destroyed by like an MST, a Twin Twister, anything along those lines, you can add it back to hand. If your Deceit has been destroyed, then you can add it back to hand. Card is very, very nice, and also it cannot be destroyed by card effects, and when it's destroyed by battle, you can target 1 card your opponent controls and destroy it. So it's just a bit more protection / removal for you as well, which is really, really good just having that in the deck. And then the final card we play is 3 Unts. If I ever see a Maximus, I laugh because they activate it. I send 2 Unts and then I destroy 2 of their cards. It's pretty much there for that. But guys, that is the deck profile, and honestly, this deck is absolutely insane, absolutely mad, and I cannot believe Konami made this deck. But let's go ahead and go on to some duels now to show you what the deck is actually capable of. Okay guys, so the first game that I have for you here is against Eldritch Invoked, and let's go see what happens. So, starting off, we are going first, and let's see what happens. So we go ahead and activate Point of the Mysterune, which will allow us to add the field spell from our deck to our hand, and banish the top card of our opponent's deck. We then go ahead and use the Spell and Trap Destroying one, which will allow us to go ahead and special summon a Mysterune card from our extra deck, and then we'll use this effect to go ahead and add the continuous spell from our deck to our hand. Essentially, this means that we have the field spell and the continuous spell to go ahead and banish/draw cards. We're then going to go ahead and activate the field spell, and then activate the continuous spell, and then we go ahead and activate Droplets, which will allow our opponent to draw 1, banish 4, and then we'll banish an additional 1 for Deceit. So we go ahead and shuffle 3 into the deck using the field spell as well, which will allow us to go ahead and draw 3 cards, and we set 2 and pass. We use Moonin to gain 1000, and let's see what our opponent can do. So, they activate Magical Meltdown, adding Alice to the Invoker, summons Alistair, we go ahead and chain Skill Drain to prevent him from getting the Invocation, and then he sets 4, goes into a Secure Gardener, and passes turn. We go ahead and activate the Slumber, which will allow us to banish 3, slash an additional 1, and also allow us to use the field spell to shuffle 2 to draw 2 cards. We go ahead and banish 1, we use Point of the Mysterune as well, giving us an additional search, which we search for the Hammer, and banish another card from our opponent's deck, and then use Deceit to banish another card, and then we go ahead and banish 7 more cards from our opponent's deck because they have 4 set and 1 in the field spell and 1 Secure Gardener, and Deceit will allow us to banish an additional 1. So we banished a total of 7 cards there. We attempt to use this card, the Moonin, to go ahead and draw. We go ahead and banish a lot more cards. He goes ahead and chains this Scarlet Sanguine, which I think was a bit of a misplay, to be completely honest, because it means that he has 1 more card, meaning we're now banishing 7 to 8 cards thanks to the Hammer, and he goes ahead and banishes that amount of cards. We go ahead and shuffle 3 back to draw 3 cards. He goes ahead and uses Conquistador and Halquero, trying to get rid of cards. He banishes the Point, and then goes ahead and destroys the Deceit, which I think was actually incorrect, because if he destroyed the field spell, we wouldn't get the draws, but I think that was a misplay on his part, not knowing the deck. And we go ahead and draw 2 cards. So we use Point as well to go ahead and banish 1, and then we go ahead and draw for turn and activate Extravagance, which will allow us to draw 2 cards, see what we get, and then we go ahead and use the Spell and Trap card Destruction and mill him out. So pretty much first game, easy mill. We pretty much decked him out very easily. He had a lot of cards. We were able to use the Hammer. We were able to use all of our cards to deck him out very easily, and the field spell just kept giving us advantage to get to more cards. This is what I mean when I say this deck is very consistent and very easy to mill your opponent now, because literally if your opponent has a lot of cards, you're just going to win. But let's go on to the next game. So the next deck that I have to show this deck off against is the Dino Morpheus. Now let's see how this game goes. So let's play, let's see what we do. It looks like our opponent is going first, where they activate Summon Lady of Lament to set 1 trap from their deck, sets 2, and passes turn. Our turn comes around. What we're going to do, we're going to activate Extravagance to go ahead and draw 2 cards, and then we're going to go ahead and activate our field spell, activate Terraforming to add the other copy of the field spell, and then we go ahead and use Point to go ahead and add the Hammer from our deck to our hand. We set 1 and we pass. So our turn, not the best from the looks of it, because we've got 2 of the field spell, we've got 1 of the Hammer, and we've got 4 unknown cards, 1 being set and 3 in our hand. So let's see what we do. So our opponent's turn comes around, they summon out the Dino Morpheus Stratos card, which allows them to set 1 from deck, and we chain Skill Drain to prevent that effect from activating. Our opponent activates the trap card that I believe allows them to fusion summon, and they go ahead and summon out the big fusion level 6, okay? It has 4k attack, but we're going to see what we can do here. So he attacks with the 1500 attack point 1 first, and then we're going to go ahead and chain Point to go ahead and add Slumber, which we'll go ahead and use instantly to go ahead and target the big 4k to prevent it from being able to attack us. We shuffle away 3 to draw 3 cards, and then we see what happens. Our opponent passes turn. We use the Hammer, banishing 4 cards from our opponent's deck. We also use the MST one to go ahead and banish 4 more cards from our opponent's deck, and we draw for turn. We go ahead and use the Hammer right away, banishing more cards from our opponent's deck. Then we shuffle away 3 to draw 3 cards. Okay, draw 3 and see what happens. We go ahead and use Extravagance. So just for little clarity here, what we've done is we've drawn in the same turn we used Extravagance. So basically, Extravagance says that you can't draw the rest of the turn, so we played around that effect to draw more cards by going ahead and activating the Quick Play spell in the draw phase to then go ahead and banish the 6 with the Extravagance to go ahead and draw 2 more cards a lot easier. Just a little note there, just so you guys don't think, okay, he's drawn cards the same turn he's activated Extravagance, that's illegal. It's not, because we hadn't activated the Extravagance yet. So let's continue on. So we banish 6, draw 2, activate Port of Duality, and look at the top 6. We go ahead and grab the Deceit, which we're probably going to go ahead and activate, and then we're going to go ahead and activate Point, which will allow us to banish 2 and also add 1. We go ahead and banish 1, we go ahead and use Droplets, which will allow our opponent to draw 1 and also banish 4. We banish 5 there, we set 1, and we pass. Our opponent's turn comes around, they summon another monster, we use Slumber on the big fusion, and we banish 4 more cards, 1 more including the Disciple, and then our opponent has no cards left in the deck, so we'll see if our opponent can deck us out. Well, kill us actually, just with damage. They can't, so we go to the end phase, and it's our turn, we draw for turn, we set some cards, we pass, and then our opponent loses to cards can't be drawn. So we decked out another opponent. Hooray! See, this deck is very, very mad, and I know against Dinomorphia isn't the best choice, but it's very hard getting people to stay for the deck out, so just enjoy it nonetheless. But let's go on to the final game for the video. So the last game that I have for you here is against Pure Eldritch, and I know we've already had an Eldritch on here, but this is pure, not invoked, so let's see the differences that happen. So let's play the recording. So let's see what happens. Who's going first? Our opponent's going first, where they set 4 and pass. We draw for turn. We go ahead and activate Extravagance, which will allow us to draw 2 cards. He Ash Blossoms it, so we don't get those additional 2 draws, but we're going to use Point of the Mysterune now to add the Hammer from our deck to our hand. We set 4, activate Heavenly Prism. He goes ahead and chains Halquero and also Conquistador, interesting choices, to go ahead and summon 2. And then he end turn. So he goes ahead and draws for turn. What's he going to do? He's activating Nadir's Servant, which will allow him to get Ecclesia and also use Fajit to draw 1 and put 1 back. Normal summons Ecclesia. We go ahead and chain Metaverse, activating our Mysterune field spell. Okay, he goes ahead and adds the punishment. He sets 1 and then he attempts to attack with Ecclesia. We go ahead and banish 6 cards from our opponent's deck and use Heavenly Prism, which will allow us to set another Point of the Mysterune from our deck. This is what I'm talking about when I say it's basically just a protection, a search, and also just a big body in general. It's a very strong card for this deck and something that I really, really do like. But we're now going to go ahead and use the Brilliant Flame now, which will allow us to go ahead and destroy that Ecclesia or a monster. Well, we choose the Halquero to banish 3 cards, well 2 cards, sorry, and then go ahead and draw more cards from our deck. He goes ahead and sets the Scarlet Sanguine because we did kill the Halquero, and then we draw 3, and it's now our turn. We draw for turn. Activate Deceit of the Mysterune, activate the big hammer, banishing a ton of cards from our opponent's deck, and an additional card. He changes Scarlet Sanguine in fear of losing his Golden Lord, and then we go ahead and use Point to go ahead and search a card, and then banish more cards. So we go ahead and use the Spell and Trap Destruction to banish 4, and then we banish more cards and get more draws. You can see there's a pattern with this deck. Draw 3, activate Port of Duality, go ahead and look at the top 3, what we're going to get. We get the Droplets, which will allow us to banish a lot more. So we use Droplets, he changes Punishment, but we also chain Flame. Now, how many cards are we banishing here? Let's go ahead and count. He's drawing 1, and then banishing 4. He's getting negated, and then banishing 3. So, pretty much what we've done here is we've completed the deck out, because one thing you guys need to know about this deck, you cannot activate any of the Mysterune cards if they don't have enough cards to banish. So if your opponent had 3 cards left in deck, you cannot activate Droplets. If your opponent has 2 cards left in deck, you cannot activate the Freezing Curse here. So you have to chain it in a way where they will resolve to as far as they can, so they still banish out their entire deck. So pretty much, let's go ahead and see how this works. So he's going to go ahead and banish 3 cards. He's going to draw 1, then banish 4. He's going to deck out, attempt to banish more with the Deceit, end turn. He's going to go ahead and lose the game because he can't draw, and that's pretty much all she wrote. So just a little ruling with that deck as well, because this deck does have certain rulings where if your opponent has too little cards in their deck, they cannot be decked out. So it might give them a chance to actually come back and win. So make sure you chain your cards carefully when you're playing this deck. But guys, that is the Mysterune deck. In all honesty, this deck is absolutely insane, absolutely brilliant, and Konami, you really shouldn't have made this deck, because deck out is now become a strategy. You're going to see this deck in so many different decks. Sky Striker, general decks that want to search, any deck that needs that additional rank 4 play. Like, honestly, this engine, this deck is just absolutely insane, and having the ability to banish a ton of cards / instant fusion every time is absolutely mad. So guys, that's the video though. Tell me what your thoughts are on the Mysterune. Do you think they're degenerate? Do you think Konami shouldn't have made them? Personally, I'm one of the people who thinks they shouldn't have been made, because it's just too much and just not fair. But guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy. Please do not play this deck yourselves in real tournaments when it comes out, but definitely give it a go to see if you like it as an engine in your deck. But guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, sorry for showing degeneracy, but we gotta make this known so people are aware that yes, this deck exists. Yes, you should play Imperial Iron Wall. But guys, I'll see you in the next one. Robot1, signing out. Later all.